Hey everyone, I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. It is the holiday season. Hard to tell, right? I always do this. Well, at least I try. They die a lot. Sometimes I forget to water them. But I've been keeping these alive. The little poinsettia's behind me. And obviously, it's supposed to be one of the happiest times of the year. It is for me. I look forward to Christmas and the holidays all year. I love it. I love Thanksgiving too, but I really love Christmas. And I think for a lot of people, it's a lot of nostalgia, right? You remember yourself in jammies, opening presents and having family time and all the rest, right? But for those of us who are in the true crime community, and for one family in Colorado, the holiday season can be a very, very dark time because it is a grim anniversary. This month marks 29 years since 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was found murdered inside her family's home in Boulder, Colorado. That means nearly 3 decades of questions, 3 decades of investigative missteps, and 3 decades of one of the most haunting unsolved cases in American history. JonBenét was killed the day after Christmas, 1996, strangled, skull fractured. Her body left in the basement of her own home. She'd been sexually assaulted. She was 6. And despite some brief moments of hope over all these years, no one has ever been charged in this crime. But there may be a new development. Boulder Police have just said that they have new evidence in this case. In their annual update, Police Chief Stephen Redfern said JonBenét's murder remains a top priority, and he outlined new steps being taken to move this case forward. Take a look.
This past year, our detectives have conducted several new interviews, as well as re-interviewed individuals based on tips that we've received. We've also collected new evidence and tested and retested other pieces of evidence to generate new leads. Techniques and technology constantly evolve. This is especially true with technology related to DNA testing. Detectives continue to consult with outside experts from across the country, as well as our state and federal partners, to strategize and explore all options when it comes to evidence testing.
Police are not saying what that evidence is or who has been interviewed or re-interviewed, but they are confirming that new and follow-up interviews have been conducted and that new evidence has been collected. I can't even imagine that. 30 years after the fact, new evidence. What did you find and where, They also say that older evidence has been retested using advances in DNA technology with help from state, federal, and outside experts. And that got me thinking. Outside experts, because boy, oh boy, they seem to be so much better than our official ones, right? Government experts, meh. Outside experts, Othram. Investigators are once again urging anybody with information, no matter how small, to come forward and tell police. And just as he has for nearly 3 decades, JonBenét's father, John Ramsey, is still waiting for answers and still believing that a breakthrough will come. Earlier on my NewsNation show, Banfield, I talked to John Ramsey. Here's our conversation. John, I can't even count how many times you and I meet at this time of year to discuss what's new, what's happening, what's different, what's changed. But something does feel different this year. To hear Chief Redfern say that they've got new evidence, that they've retested old evidence, and that they're using outside experts. Let's start with the new evidence and the retesting of old evidence. Have they told you anything about that?
Well, Chief Redfern told us, I don't know, September, we had a meeting with him, and that he had submitted evidence for additional DNA testing. He didn't say what evidence it was, but that it was submitted again, or perhaps new. We don't know if it was new or stuff that had been tested before. We, of course, have advocated that if certain evidence that was taken from the crime scene has never been sampled, that it ought to be. The main one being the garrote that was used to strangle my daughter. So it's encouraging. And, the key really in progress has been the addition of new leadership there. It was not very good. for 25, 26 years. And brought in Chief Redfern from the outside. I've met with him 3 or 4 times. I'm impressed with him. I think he's sincere and honest. And so I'm encouraged. And, we've advocated.
I can't believe, John, I can't believe that the chiefs in the past haven't seen it as a priority, if only to become, famous in name as the chief that solved this case. It just defies logic that it's taken 3 decades for someone to come along who maybe does make this a priority and who has the chops. Do you know if they have enlisted labs like Othram? And I bring up Othram because it's famous for having solved the Idaho murders.
Yeah. No, Othram is one of the few cutting-edge labs that can do investigative genetic genealogy. IgG is the term for it. And we've been advocating that the Boulder Police do that, use that technology in our case. I think if they do, we've got probably a 70–80% chance of getting an answer. It's been very successful in solving old cold cases. It's kind of the latest and greatest use of technology and DNA to solve crimes. And
I'm going to tell you something. When I saw the posting of Chief Redfern, I went deep down in the comments and I was reading the comments. And John, I'm not going to lie, I was so disheartened to see how many people out there still believe you had something to do with it, despite the fact, and let me repeat this loud and clear, that the Boulder Police and everybody else involved in investigating the murder of your daughter, they have cleared you over and over and over again. And they've gone so far as to apologize for having left you under that umbrella of suspicion for so long, to the point where Patsy died before she was cleared from that umbrella of suspicion. So for anybody watching, if you're one of the commenters, do your research before you make such painful comments about John and his family. Okay, that aside, I will say this because you brought it up when we, I think, spoke at CrimeCon, that you wish that they would ask you to re-interview. You wish that they would bring you in so that you could, once again, tell them everything that they might want to know. Is that, I know you got the meeting in January. Is that on the agenda?
Well, we haven't put it on the agenda yet, but we're going to ask for a meeting again in January for an update. And they've always been, at least with Chief Redfern, very cordial in honoring that request. So, they've been fairly quiet about what they're doing. I think if I read between the lines of his latest report that he issued, there's some encouraging words there. And so I'm more optimistic than I've been in a long time, certainly with new leadership. The problem with the old leadership, it was the old guard. These people that were in that police department had never investigated a murder. They decided on day one that we were guilty, literally day one. And that became the conclusion that they tried to fit the evidence to. And of course, they ran into problems because they couldn't fit the evidence.
Right. I should mention as well, just for those who might be dabbling in the case and thinking that they know more than the average Joe, there is unknown male DNA on JonBenét's clothing, multiple different parts of her clothing, not just one piece, multiple different pieces of her clothing have the same unknown male DNA, meaning it's the same DNA from the same person. So that's a critical piece of this, of this mystery. John, have they said to you anything about what new evidence they're referring to and what new interviews they've conducted?
No, they haven't. And of course, that's one of the questions we'll ask is, okay, what new evidence do you have? Did you test the DNA in the latest format that's necessary to do IgG, investigative genetic genealogy? And that would be very encouraging to us if they've done that. This new technology, it's been around for 3 or 4 years, is really truly an investigative tool that allows police to investigate and look for the killer. The CODIS federal database of DNA it's been around for 30 years. It's frankly a little obsolete, in my opinion.
You know why? You got to have a
Yeah.
criminal. And as we know from the Golden State Killer, that guy wasn't a criminal. He was a cop. And so he was
Oh, well,
caught through
that's been-
genetic genealogy because he wasn't in CODIS, but he was in the family tree of all those folks who've tested their DNA. John, I
Yep.
say it every year. I'm going to say it again. I pray for you. I pray for you and Jan that you will get resolution. You will get justice, and I'm feeling that it's getting closer, especially with the positive vibes you're getting from the Boulder Police. Let's just put our hands together and pray together that you finally get this answer in 2026.
Well, thank you, Ashleigh. I'm very optimistic at this point. I really am.
I'm glad to hear that in your voice because it's been a long 29 years. John, thank you for this, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Well, thank you. Merry Christmas to you, Ashleigh. Thank you.
Nearly 3 decades later, investigators say they are not done. And JonBenét's family still believes that a breakthrough is coming. And you can believe that we will be watching this case, this story, and these developments. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, the truth isn't just serious. It's drop dead serious.